Welcome to the Takedown with Brian and Jesse. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the rising cost of health insurance, the GOP infighting, why the government might not even be needed, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Tesla, a little bonus topic. So let's get started. Jesse, you there?
I am here.
How you doing?
A little under the weather, but otherwise pretty okay.
That's good. Good. So we got a good show today. We talk about a few things. Lots going on the last week or two. We missed a week. There's some hangups, but we're back now. So I think the first thing to talk about is, I don't know about you. I know I think you get employer healthcare coverage, but I have to pay for my own. And the thing I'm noticing is the cost of insurance is going out of control. So I don't know if you experienced roughly the same thing, but over the last 10 years, and it's insane now. So I had like a top of the line plan, right? 11 years ago. It was a Florida Blue Platinum plan, and it cost me like $160 a month, just self pay, because I've been self employed for like a decade now, and that 170 went to 200, then it went to like 400, and then it went to like 550, and I was like, this is too much, so I dialed it back to like a silver plan, and that took it back down to like 180. But then once again, it went to 240 and then 350. And then when I swapped over to the family plan after I got married and my wife gave birth, I would have been paying 580 for that. And then swapping over to a family plan increased it to 1,750. And I just got my renewal this next year. I'm going to be paying $2,600. And that just seems unsustainable. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts were on that. You got
Well,
any?
so that the number made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. Um, I gotta tell, we've talked about this before. Like healthcare is like the nut nobody can crack. People here in the U.S. tend to go like, oh, the Democrats got their plan, the Republicans got their plan. Like they do, and it always sucks. Like everything we try makes it worse. And if you like expand that to like a global kind of perspective. Nobody really seems to have it settled either, right? I mean, we've kind of joked about it before. If you're in the UK, you no problem. We'll take care of that hurt knee. It'll just be 18 months before you can get in. You're in Canada, no, and have you considered killing yourself? And then here in the US, it's like just no problem, $40,000 or whatever, right? So
I'm,
it's bad everywhere, but just a different kind of bad everywhere.
yeah, I'm glad you brought up that meme. I'm actually going to show everybody on the screen that meme because it really does highlight the problem. Everybody has an issue, and it is all different issues. Our issue is that like we can get care really fast.
Oh yeah,
If I break my leg and I need surgery on it, I'll get that in like a couple days. Maybe same day. If I went to the ER. But in the UK they'll be like, how's this time next year?
right. Yep.
And but now the people overseas, and I don't want to focus too much on the foreign stuff, but they'll say, well, we get it all for free. Obviously they don't, because nothing's for free. They pay excessive taxes, and that funds it. So it's sort of yeah, nothing's for free. But
No, no.
here in the US, I just wonder, because the cost they want to charge my family now is, I'm starting to wonder, is now the time to just self-pay. Because $2,600 a month times 12 is what, like close to $32,000 a year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a substantial amount of money. I mean, people say, well, what if you get really sick? Well, so what if I get really sick? I mean, even like a major surgery self-pay, it's only going to be like 10 or $20,000.
Right.
And
Yeah. You just set it aside into an account. And,
yeah, exactly. And that doesn't include the fact that that money can be invested.
right. Make a little money. Right.
Yes, like I can expect to make about 7% on that 33,000. And in which case now it's taken it up to like 35,000.
Yeah. Yeah. You can
And
set some of it aside long term, buy some government bonds, and make our national debt even worse. Right.
yeah, or that. But I just wonder, like, where does it end? Because people say, oh, it's because of the subsidies. So it is true that I got a small subsidy. Okay, not because I wanted it. That's just what it is. It's like very small. We're talking like $50 a month. okay, because I was like right at the top end of the earning. And so this big increase from 1720 to 2600 is not even a result of the subsidies, okay?
What?
Because even if you were to tack on that subsidy again, it would still be like 2550. So somewhere along the line, the insurance company decided that your rate needs to go up by like 30 to 40%.
Right. Unpack that a little bit. What do you mean by because of the subsidies? What's the argument there?
Well, the whole fight during the shutdown was the canceling of the subsidies. And so it's like this year, nobody's going to get any. But that doesn't really affect me because I wasn't really getting any to begin with. And
Right.
like if you look on if you look on any like left wing news site, they're like this person's gonna go from $100 a month to $2,000 a month, and it's like okay, well that person probably makes like 20 grand a year, but I don't make 20 grand a year, and I make a lot more than that, and so I
Right.
don't really get any subsidies. So like it's I guess what I'm saying is mine is not going up because of the subsidies. It's going up because the insurance company, for whatever reason, has raised the rate significantly.
Right. I'm getting you. I'm tracking now.
Yeah. And I just wonder, I just wonder when that ends.
Oh, I mean, never. Right. I think probably never. Has there been a point in our adult lives where we saw this go the other direction, right? Where line goes down?
Never,
Yeah, I didn't think so.
never.
I mean, it's
The-
it's always been an upward trajectory, and I wonder if like because there is that peculiar kind of I don't ever say this word like a cuss word, and I don't mean to say it here this way that way here, but there is kind of that peculiar capitalistic vibe to all business where line must go up, right? And that certainly has to be true, from the insurer perspective as well. And I mean that would logically that's just going to drive premiums up like always.
And I think that's part of what I want to toss around is like what's driving it up. And I have a couple theories. The first is obviously the overuse of the ER system by people who might be uninsured. Because if you go in, they have to treat you. Okay, if you go into the ER and you're like, my leg's broken, and they say, are you insured? And you say no, and they're like, no problem, let's fix your leg. And like that's a big drain. So and also illegals, they're going in there as well, and that's driving up the cost for everybody because that's the first theory. The second theory is that the administration has gutted all the cost saving stuff from healthcare while keeping in all the cost increase stuff. And I know we talked a little bit about this, but it's the whole, prior to 2014, they could do risk-based insuring. They could say like, all right, well, you're a really young, healthy person, so we're going to charge you like $200 a month.
Right.
But then when you get old and maybe you've been eating McDonald's for 3 decades and you're morbidly obese and you haven't been taking care of yourself, we're gonna charge you the same $300. But sorry, we're gonna charge you $2,000 a month.
Right.
Now they can't do that. Now like the 18-year-old healthy person pays $1,000 a month, and the morbidly obese person pays $1,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's no, right. Evening out the line. That's definitely gonna, it's gonna sting some of us worse, right? I mean, I'm old enough now that probably like a risk-based assessment wouldn't be super favorable to me anyway. But yeah, that's definitely a contributing factor.
I don't even think it was that bad. I'd go as far as to say that the risk-based assessment, even for a super unhealthy person in 2014, it's probably less than we're paying now than what I'm paying. And I only say that because there was just less strain on the system.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect as with all things, less meddling from the government probably makes for just a more affordable product, right? And I mean, just at a very basic level, just like we talked about the other day, there's no program in which you hand money from one entity to another to pay for something that the first entity could have paid for and it gets cheaper. It's not how that works, right? Throwing in the middleman is always going to make it worse.
Always, always. And I think that's what's happening here. So I don't know where they go from here. I don't know what they do, but I do know it's a huge problem. And I'm fully expecting that. I told my wife this. I said, all right, well, sure, we pay the 2,600. Well, what's it going to be next year? 4,000?
Right.
And what's it going to be after that? 5,500? Are we going to be paying $70,000 a year for insurance here in like 3 years? Because
Well,
at the rate these increases are happening, that's what it's going to look like.
I heard, and I didn't hear any substance behind it, but just the other day, Donald talking about a Trump care and whatever that looks like. It's just the new type of poison, right? Like it's gonna be it's just some dippy federal program that's gonna complicate things, make it worse. It's gonna come with some hangers. The opposing force won't like the hangers, so they'll cut them off, and all the bad parts will stay. All the good, the quote unquote good parts will be gone, and you know, and it's Groundhog's Day, man. It's just
Yeah,
every
as far as I understand, Trump care, as you put it, is really just Obamacare with all the unpopular stuff, but with the unfortunate side effect of crazy increased prices because there's no way to avoid it. I mean, if you're going to tell insurers that they have to take on all this risk by insuring unhealthy people at lower rates and taking on pre-existing conditions and all this kind of stuff, if they're going to expect them to do that, then and they're going to remove the individual mandate, which obviously I don't support. I don't support forcing anybody to buy anything, obviously. However, the individual mandate, as was written in Obamacare, was the main reason why the program, quote unquote, worked, because that was a lot of money flowing in.
right.
But ever
Yeah,
since they cut that, that money's not flowing in anymore. But the insurance company is still having to take all the risk. And
yeah.
so, what do you think is going to happen? With this, obviously, anyone with an IQ higher than an eggplant knows that this was going to be the outcome.
I remember a weird little rule, like a Justice Roberts ruling on that, where simply having not attached the word tax to the individual mandate, uh,
Mm.
designed to collect money on behalf of the federal government to be used for a program, made it not a tax. And yeah, I don't know. It was frustrating at the time. It's frustrating now, but yeah, if we're gonna, it's like it's having a machine and taking out a few gears and expecting it to work correctly. It's not going to work correctly.
No.
Um, I mean, like the very notion of it's the like the laboratories of democracy thing. The idea that the better ideas should win out naturally. The federal level stuff always screws that up, man, because like we can't have Obamacare running alongside a regular marketplace, because the regular marketplace would murder it, right? It would destroy it. People would opt to do that instead. And the fact that that's true means that, I mean, the people have spoken, right? Like they don't like your dumb idea. Uh,
Yeah.
but you have the weight of the federal government to go, well, do my dumb idea anyway.
The only reason that the whole it's healthcare.gov, the only reason that whole system exists in the first place is in order to transfer wealth from one place to another. Like that's how you get the subsidy if
Right.
you have to. And it's actually kind of convoluted. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole on this because it'll just take too much time. But it's like I somehow ended up on there. I didn't even want to be on there. I mean, I thought I was getting insurance from Florida Blue, and the next thing I knew, I was in healthcare.gov. So I don't know if they're like in bed with each other or forwarding me on there, or it's really convoluted. Like I wanted nothing to do with the government system, and somehow I ended up in the government system anyway. Even though it doesn't benefit me. Again, like yeah, they gave me a $50 subsidy or whatever,
Right.
because I guess I don't,
Yeah.
that wasn't a consideration, obviously,
Yeah.
but
And like, man, like, I don't know, let's stick on that $50 subsidy for a minute. I know we beat this up pretty substantially with the stamp thing the other day, but I remember like long ago the idea was you were rewarded for working hard, like like these days the idea is that you win jackpots by being the laziest layabout you possibly can, because you want that subsidy, man. Just make no money, right? Just
that's
go
right.
get yourself a
Yeah.
part-time job, and and collect $2,000 every time you pass go or whatever. Work yourself to the bone. Like, I mean, I would say we're in different places professionally, right? Like I've got the kind of job that you'd expect, right? Like a person to have where somebody will throw employer money at me for healthcare and whatnot, and you got the kind of job that pulls in capital, and there's no opportunity for you to enjoy that sort of resource. Um, and you're getting I mean, you're doing the harder thing, and you're getting screwed worse than I am. It's I don't know. For a batch of people that are so interested in the concepts of equity, they don't seem to really take effort into account when they look at it.
No, they don't. But I think this is a good segue into, back on the government. You mentioned that, government just fucks everything up anyway. So, do we even need government? Because I was thinking to myself, my wife and I was chatting with her, and I was thinking, all right, the government's been shut down for 40 days. Other than the areas where the government has chosen to inflict massive pain on people for the shutdown, such as long lines at the airport, or putting the chaining the gate shut at the national parks, things that, I mean, in the case of the airport, they could just cover their own stuff, and why do they need to pay someone at the national park anyway? Just go there. Um, so it's like, do we really need them? If there was ever a showing uh, to make the case that the government's just fucking worthless, it was this last 40 days.
Yeah, I think if you dwell too long on the subject of like the federal against state, or not against, but it contrasted with state governance, federalism, right? If you dwell too long on why we use it, you find yourself back looking at a quote, and I can't remember who it's from, but the notion that if it's a state too small will fall uh, to exterior power, and a state too large from internal turmoil. And the notion of federalism was, to give you that large state military or power, and that small state intimacy when it came to legislation. So I am a big proponent of the federal government as described in the original document. I think that the absurd monster that it's evolved into, over the past century or two is unrecognizable, right? Like it's not meant to be what it is. And I mean, it got out of control fairly quickly, right? Like the very notion that the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of what the Constitution says stands as overtly insane, because the idea that the states would create this like Goliath and then give it its own shackle keys seems crazy.
Right.
but but that's how we've interpreted it for so long, that everybody just takes that idea for granted. They just assume that that's true. Um, and I don't know, man. That's how it got here. I guess that's the brief history on it. So no, as it exists right now, no, I think 99% of the federal government could vanish into the ether, and it wouldn't bother me in the least. I think states can do everything that they do in airports. I
Yes.
think that disaster management um, needs to be, generally, it should be the territory of the states. And I know people will, well, how does the state recover from its own disaster? Dude, do you know how big a state is? Like they're large.
In some cases, huge.
Right. And it's not as though, in that situation, I mean, governors can, I mean, they can hook each other up, man. They're not
Oh
they're
yeah.
not they're
Oh
not
yeah.
gonna like just be like, oh, let them all die, right? Uh, yeah, the whole apparatus is out of control. It's out of hand. It needs reset. It needs reconsidered.
It's also ballooned quite a bit, over time.
Oh yeah.
And um, when I think about, like, what is the government doing, it really what it's doing is it's transferring money around. That's really what it's doing. It's redistributing tax income because if you sit back and you take a hard look at what critical functions the federal government is actually providing that states don't, the only thing that really comes to mind is national security and defense against foreign nations. That's that's really it because states already maintain their own roads. Okay, they all have disaster management departments. They all do their own education. They all do their own regulations as it comes to food and produce. They could definitely take care of air traffic control and airport security, or just the airport could do it itself. There's really like all the departments in the federal government are pointless. Like the federal Department of Transportation, like, why do you need that? Every state has their own transportation department. They don't need that. You don't need the education department. You don't need the interior. You don't need any of that. Like you literally need none of it. It's just duplicative of stuff that's already in state systems. And it's all just a colossal waste of money. So in my mind, it's really just military. Now, the counter argument there could be, well, states have National Guard. And, that's usually military for state issues, but the National Guard, like if there's a large scale foreign invasion, would 50 states like band together with their National Guard to defend that? Maybe. So that's the only like thing in my mind that is uniquely federal government
Right.
is the defense from foreign invasion.
Which takes us back to that quote, right? So I think that there is an importance that we all march together, right? Because I mean, if you took right now and you were like, "Hey, man, we're going to go attack Russia," right? Depending on who was in office, you'd get about half states being like, "Let's do it," and the other half would be like, "No," right? And
Right.
I'm not advocating one position or the other. I'm just stating this as a fact. Like because we can't get along, um, like just socially speaking, that transfers into our thinking on virtually every issue up to and including armed conflict, right? It all becomes partisan. So
Yes.
I think we started life looking at that quote in the state too small, right? We were in danger of falling to external forces, and we have lived long enough to find ourselves in the state too large, where we are actively falling to internal turmoil. Because I mean, in the current system, with as much force as the federal government has on any given issue, literally any given issue, um, you can't escape it. You can't go, man, I don't want to do single payer system stuff. I'm going to move to Nevada. They're doing it. They're doing it too if the federal government decides to do it, right?
Right.
Uh, I don't. I do like abortion. Or I don't like abortion. I'm going to go pick a place that I can live that where people share my values. It doesn't matter if they share your values. They're still going to get forced into whatever the federal position on the subject is.
Yes. Can't escape it.
No,
Impossible.
and that's like no nobody bothers to look through back far enough to understand why these systems are in place and why they aren't working. Even on points like this where it should seem fairly obvious.
Yeah, it's always been, if you don't like your state, you got 49 other options, and you can always get away from it. But yeah, you can't get away from federal.
Nope.
You can't get away from their taxation, and you can't get away from the effect of national policies, and that's kind of a big problem,
Yeah.
and it's really a big problem just in the last like 120 years, because people don't realize that income tax is fairly new,
Yeah.
like in the latter half of the country being alive. I think income tax was Woodrow Wilson in what, like 1914, 1918, something like that.
I want to say it was a temporary measure implemented to fund war efforts.
Yes, it was, and it had two tax brackets. It was like 1% for all earners and like 2% for rich people,
Yeah.
and that was really it. And then all of a sudden now we're paying 30%.
Right. Basically all money. is tax
Yeah,
money.
yeah, yeah. It's insane. So, but the point of that wasn't to go down the rabbit hole necessarily on the taxes. It was just to say that, if the federal government was not receiving 30% of everybody's income, then it also would not be as big as it is.
No, yeah, and I mean, like, man, I think the other part of that is, this ties back to the national debt conversation. I don't think there's any reason to revisit a lot of that, but man, what are you doing with it? How in the world are you taking 30% of basically everybody's income, plus, the money that comes in from other sources, and putting us in the hole so bad that my kids' grandkids are going to be paying my social security?
I think the answer is just because that's how wealth redistribution works.
Yeah.
It's really just money just goes from one place to another. It's like a big laundering scheme almost. It's
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny. Like, so I once heard Social Security. I shouldn't say I once. You occasionally hear Social Security explained as a Ponzi scheme because it is, right. Like it's indistinguishable. Um, and that the line that is drawn, if you get far enough into it, is that it has the force of government behind it. That is its defining difference. It's the exact same system, but it's been legally mandated, so it's okay.
it's also like it's no longer a pool of money. Maybe we'll cover Social Security in another episode, but it's not a pool of money anymore. It's literally just the paycheck from a non-retiree. That money just goes into a retiree's account. You know,
Yep.
and then the government also backfills the shortfall. So, yeah, that's crazy.
Yep. What a system.
Yeah, ridiculous. All right, so moving on to all the infighting. So we've been noticing a lot of, or I've been noticing it, like Trump is going for the throat on a lot of people and a lot of good people. Okay, like Rand Paul's a good person. Thomas Mass is a good person. Marjorie Taylor Greene, you can have your opinions on her, but at the end of the day, she's pro-America, and that's important. You may not like her methods or the way she acts, but she's pro-America. She's definitely not on the left. And Trump just got done calling her a far left lunatic, and it's like, what are you talking about? What uh, he's slamming Massey for getting remarried too quickly, and that his new wife will soon realize that he's a loser,
Yeah.
and doesn't like Rand Paul, I guess, because Rand Paul is like, we're 40 billion, or we're almost 40 trillion in debt, and maybe that's not a good thing. And I guess that makes him a bad person as well. So there's a lot of, and it's not just the politicians, it's also the influencers as well. They're going at each other because there's a lot of I call them Donald Trump dick riders is what I call
Yep.
them.
Yeah. The dear
And
leader people. Yep.
yeah, those are the people who, like, Trump can do no wrong. Okay, they're not free thinkers. They're not able to like critically think about the matter and come up with their own opinion. It's just, if Trump likes it, it's good. If Trump doesn't like it, it's bad. And if you don't like what Trump's doing, then you're bad.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the defining moments for me in American politics, one of the spaces where I fell a little further into apathy was on a debate stage. First Trump run, Rand Paul on the stage. They were talking fiscal conservatism, and he dared out loud to discuss the idea that if we're looking at reducing spending, we should look at reducing spending across the board. And he mentioned, two conservative darlings, and was loudly booed. And that cut me to the quick, man, because like, I like right now, what do Massey and Rand Paul have in common? They're fiscally conservative people. What did Donald Trump run on this time around? Fiscal conservatism. What?
And America first, and
Yeah,
make America great again, which to me means America first.
there you go. So how do we have the guy that was telling us that he was going to get a whole department for government efficiency, headed by the world's premier intellect when it comes to, business. How do we have that guy attacking, the champions of fiscal conservatism, and have the same voter base that voted him in, to that exact purpose, cheering him on for it? I don't know.
And that's the funniest part is Trump's like, you're going to get primaried, you're out of here, to Thomas Massey. And, like, Thomas Massey's constituency love him, okay? Because he's a constitutional conservative. And, I mean, they're like, Thomas Massey always votes with the Democrats. So, people did some research on that and found that Thomas Massey actually votes with Republicans 92% of the time. And that last 8% is usually when they're trying to protect pedophiles from the Epstein list, or when they're trying to spend our kids and grandkids and great grandkids into oblivion, because they're the ones going to have to deal with this. Like all the boomers doing this right now, they're all going to be dead. And it's going to be, the Gen Xers and millennials and the Zoomers who are going to have to deal with this in the end.
So here's a thing that I think is probably true. I think Trump likes to think that he's got kind of a Midas touch when it comes to, like getting new political figures made or keeping people in office. I don't think there's anything to evidence that. Like I think during his first move, his candidates were like more prone to loss with his endorsement than without. And I don't think he's going to impact Massey's chances of getting reelected at all. I think both him and Paul are going to be in office, long after the Trump administration is, a concept of the history books.
I believe that's correct. I also believe that the Trump endorsement is more powerful than the Trump non-endorsement. And I don't think it matters everywhere. If you're in a place like where Massey's from, I think he's Kentucky, I think, and his people love him. Okay, now if it's like a purple state and it's a tight race or something, then yeah, the Trump endorsement's probably going to push that person over the edge. But to just take some rando in Kentucky, give him the Trump endorsement, and expect him to beat Massey, no,
Right. Yeah,
that's not going to happen. That's not going to work like that.
yeah, be serious.
So I just wonder, like, when's the infighting stop, and when, because we're not really doing America first here, okay? I don't feel like the policies of the government right now are reflecting Make America Great Again. I think they're reflecting attempt to make America great again, so as long as there's no other pending priorities. And there seems to be a lot of pending priorities.
Yeah, yeah. I know offline we occasionally discuss like things are better with the Trump admin than they would be without the Trump admin. Were we living through
Yes.
Kamala Harris 1 right now or Biden 2 right now?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and I don't want to make it seem like I regret my vote or anything. I don't.
no.
I voted for Trump every single time, and I would vote for him again because it's definitely better than any alternative. But he is definitely not the America First guy.
No, I tell you, I mean, like he was, and then it just it's gone. I think during the it really happened when the fallout with Elon Musk happened, right?
Yeah.
It was right around then that he started to kind of pivot, to this like almost business as usual pre-Clinton time frame kind of. No, not even pre-Clinton time frame. Post like right around then, right? It's just spend. It's just typical conservative governance from a U.S. perspective.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you is, why do you think, like, what is happening to Trump? Do you think it's the advisors? Do you think does he really believe this kind of stuff he says? Because I mean, slamming Thomas Massey and in such a disgusting way, like criticizing him for getting remarried, which is total bullshit. But it's like, did he come up with that, or is one of his advisors in his ear being like, Thomas Massey just got remarried. You should say something. Is there people whispering in his ear? Is this
Oh,
what he really believes? Like,
oh
what do you
no,
think?
certainly him. Like, so as far as like the just direct attacks on people, I 100% believe that that's Trump, right? So Trump said a thing, and I think that this has always been true of him, right? He'll say a thing, he'll decide that because it's his idea, it's a good idea. Because it's a good idea, if you oppose that idea, you are a bad person. Because you are a bad person, I must attack you, right?
Okay.
So that's my path for him. I think that some of that may be born from bad advice, right? Like maybe that's how he's strayed so far from the path at this point. He's sat in a lot of rooms. He's gotten quote unquote educated on a few things that he didn't, completely have a good tether on, or perhaps did, but his idea of how those things should operate has been swayed over the years. And what I think once the guy says something out loud, he thinks of it as manifest, right? He doesn't.
Okay.
It's not like he's not putting it out to the room for conversation. He's putting it out the room for action.
No, I think you got the Donald Trump, mental flowchart, correct there.
Yeah, sad. As
Yeah,
as Donald Trump would say.
it's just very damaging. It's very damaging, to there's a lot of people that are like, who is this person? This is not the Donald Trump I elected. Again, don't regret my vote. Definitely better than Kamala Harris and whoever else they could put up right now. But like, when are we, and slight segue, not too new topic, but just to ask the question, like, what would it take to get a true America First candidate? And to me, when I think of America First, I think of like any decision that the federal government makes needs to be in the best interest of Americans first. Now, America First to me doesn't necessarily mean America only. You can consider other things besides America, but not at the expense of Americans. So if you want to do something overseas, if there's something that we should get involved in, it should only be because it benefits Americans. If it's not benefiting Americans, then you shouldn't be doing it. That's my view of America First. And I just wonder, like, what would it take to get that candidate? And
Yeah,
who
so
could that be? And will we see that in our lifetime?
no, ship
No.
sailed, man. Like so,
Okay.
this goes back to, in my opinion, because this goes back to that moment that I talked about on the debate stage. Somebody dared talk about something that was out of sync with typical party thinking, and I mean it ended his entire run. I mean, you have to stay. There are very defined boundaries for from the perspective of the masses as to what constitutes an acceptable Republican or acceptable Democrat. And if you are outside of those spaces, you might be able to like Zoran your way to a New York win, right? Because that guy's outside of the typical lanes of what the Democrats think of as acceptable. You might be able to, get a Senate seat, right? Because Rand Paul, he exists in a Senate seat. He's outside of those typical boundaries. But once the whole country at large needs to get a look at you. I mean, man, it's just like any other job application, right? You showed up in the wrong attire, and you're not getting hired.
Yeah, and just to build on your point there, it just makes me wonder what's really the difference between Republicans and Democrats. Because Democrats have shown exactly who they are. They are the anti-America party. And so if the opposite of anti-America party is the pro-America party, then you would think that'd be the Republicans. But they're not
Yes.
looking any better, you
Yeah.
know? Like if there's really only that I can think of. There's only like 5 people in Congress who, in my opinion, are true America First people. And then there's 530 America Second
So I,
or
th- I think
third.
I think if you ponder the nature of progressivism and conservatism, um, so progressivism insists that change is necessary to come closer to some system of perfection. And conservatism suggests that remaining in position is necessary to preserve what is good about what we have. And one leads the other by the nose very, very slowly. So progressivism advances the ball. And when I say advances, I don't mean to a better place. I just mean to the place that it's looking to go every time it finds power, right? And then conservatism maybe wrestles a little bit of it back, but it doesn't get back to where it was because that's
No.
not its goal. It wants to
Right.
preserve what is, right? So
Yes.
it's constant, it's a constant march leftward. There is no opposing force. Nothing pulls us to the right.
It's crazy.
That's
So
my thing.
yeah, I don't know what they got to do to fix that. All I know is that they are, they're alienating their base, and people I think are displeased.
Yeah, everyone's alienating their base, and people are displeased, right? Because I mean, like the Dems are wrestling with their weird, like they've got this little rogue element that they coddled for too long, and it's gotten stronger than they are in certain little pockets, right? So now they got to contend with this maniac toddler that they've given way too much power to, and it's just not good for them, right? Because like it's like, oh well, AOC is like this hugely popular figure for them, yeah, in like a really interesting, unique space though, not on like a broad appeal basis. And I think it's probably true that the Republicans are getting to a space where they're similarly situated in that we all kind of it's eggs in one basket, right? We all had this thing that we were super invested in, and it's just not quite the product that we thought we were going to get. And I don't think the product that we wanted exists. I don't think it's out there.
No, no, we're stuck with what we got. But uh, anyway, so moving on to, we're talking about the the top intellect in America who they ostracize, Elon Musk, and I wanted to toss around Tesla a little bit. So one might not think that this is very political, but it definitely is, and here's why. It's, there was the whole TDS thing, Trump derangement syndrome. Well, there's also EDS.
Mm-hmm.
If Elon Musk is associated with it, then automatically it's bad now because
Yep.
Elon Musk dared support anything that was outside of leftist wrongthink,
Yep.
and one such thing is Tesla. So Elon Musk has dedicated himself to a sustainable future. They make battery packs, they make electric cars, they make cost saving rockets. They are giving internet to everybody on planet Earth. They want to go to Mars. It's like you would think this would be a leftist wet dream guy, because it's like everything they love. I mean, if you think about it, Elon Musk hates a lot of the, what would have been super Republican things from 5 years ago. But the main one I want to talk about is Tesla, because that's the easiest one to slam. Obviously they're developing full self-driving. You and I both have Teslas. I know I'm on the hardware 4 vehicle. I think you're on hardware 3. But both our cars are quite capable of driving themselves.
Oh yeah.
And my car has like 6,000 miles on it. I've had one issue, and there's no guarantee that it would have even been an issue. I just got the latest FSD 14, and it's insanely good. It does like to swerve away from imaginary objects in the road occasionally, but they're working on that. But it's never like, if you go on the Tesla subreddit or the real Tesla subreddit or any of these places, it is so fucking negative against Tesla and FSD. And it just makes me think, like, do these people even own Teslas? Do they even have FSD? Are they even using this every day like you and I do? And if they are, why is their experience like so different from what you and I are seeing?
Well,
And
okay.
well, I'll give you a chance to respond to that so far.
Well, so on that last point, possible reason is it's not different, right? So think about it this way. What if you've got the type of person that's prone to hating Elon Musk for a political reason is the same type of person's prone to saying they're being genocided because somebody used a pronoun that they didn't like, right?
Yes.
So when my car hits a pothole, I go, oh man, I wish that they would figure out a good way for this thing to identify potholes. When their car hits a pothole, their car tried to kill them, right? So that's not them interpreting it differently. That's them, saying something insane about something little that happened because they are prone to doing that.
It,
On that same note, I think that just moving way back through this conversation when you were talking about, Musk losing his status as a liberal darling, I bet I can pinpoint the exact moment that that happened. And I think that it's something that I kind of lived through, so I can sympathize with, the richest person that's ever lived on this point. I remember him posting to Twitter one day, pronouns are stupid. And and and
that'll
I
do it.
know, I'm sorry.
Oh, I said that'll do it.
Yeah, he did. Well, he did it because, much like the issue that I had, one of his kids fell into that dumbass gender ideology, Orwellian nonsense. And I mean, it shifted a lot of the way that he thought, right? It took what seemed like fairly harmless, stupid kid stuff and put it in front of you for what it was, which is, a devastatingly serious thing that can, damage and even end the lives of children. Anywho, I think that's where that corner was turned, right? And ever since then, he's gotten further and further into the what I guess I would call the reality first camp, right? Because that is where I dwell. I don't care particularly if something is right or left leaning. I care whether or not it has a basis in reality.
Yes,
And
same. I'm
yeah,
the same way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's I think those are the 2 points that I wanted to touch on for you, Jim.
Okay. I have a couple of theories as to why people act the way they do against Tesla, and the first is simply that they don't own the car. Okay, they just see what they see online and they make their opinions based on that, which brings me to a sub point there. So, if you go to the Tesla FSD subreddit, one thing you see a lot of is videos of people's cars, doing dumb stuff or whatever. And one particular thing I saw was a guy posted a video and said, FSD caused my car to roll over. And he had a video of it. Like the car was just just driving down the road, and then it just suddenly veered to the left, went off the road, and rolled over. And everyone's like, Tesla's gonna get people killed. FSD is not ready. They're trying to do unsupervising, blah 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 blah. But then one guy was like, get the event log and post it.
Yeah.
Because when your Tesla collides, Tesla collects all the data over the last like 30 seconds to a minute, and then they
Right.
supply it to you in a form. And so this guy uploaded that form, and it showed exactly what happened. Like, people analyzed it and said there must have been a fight in the cab between like the guy and his girlfriend or wife or something or kid, or because FSD was disengaged 5 seconds prior, and it like because it shows the wheel torque, it shows everything, it shows
Yep.
FSD status, and so now people are like post the cabin camera, and the guy wouldn't do it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think the guy, he didn't know that the form he was posting was basically proving that he caused the crash.
Right.
Because if FSD actually did this, that would be really bad. But it didn't. It wasn't even on. It was turned off 4 seconds prior.
So I'm gonna make I'm gonna add something to that. If FSD actually did that, it would be bad. I don't know that it would be really bad. And here's what I mean. I think that probably you could show that a grander percentage of rollovers in any given day were caused by manual drivers than were caused by full self-driving, even
Yes.
if full self-driving caused one, right? Um, it, it's like perfect is the enemy of good. we're going to get to a space where you can get into your car, you can click full self-driving, and it'll take you wherever you go while you take a nap. And someone is going to die in an automobile accident, perhaps even because of an FSD error at some point. And that'll still be better.
Yes. Well, here's a counterpoint to that. I mean, people die in taxis crashing,
Absolutely.
it's like that has a human driver. So,
Right.
what's the difference? You know?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. I think
Yeah.
so, but yeah, all that set aside, the fact that it was the dipshit's own fault is amazing. And one point that I did forget to respond to on your original statement, fuck Reddit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I genuinely hate Reddit. I used to use it like if I was doing motorcycle repair and something was stumping me, I would go to Reddit. These days, I'll just break out Grok and ask Grok instead. I find no use whatsoever for that absolute hellscape of a site. I think that it
Yes.
is probably the primary driver of every dumb shit idea that found its way into the public consciousness during the pandemic, perhaps even before and after for a couple of years. It's this very small, very specific hive mind that does nothing but propagate terrible ideas.
And lies in a lot of cases.
A lot of
And
cases.
I should clarify that I don't use it as like a main source. So the only reason I'm on there, Tesla FSD, is literally because I'm trying to find these people. I'm trying to find, and it's easy to find. You just literally just open it, and
Yeah,
you're gonna,
you're clarifying for the listener. I know.
yeah, it's I'm
Yeah.
clarifying for the listener for sure. The the people I see on there posting about these things also is they'll be like, my Tesla keeps trying to kill me. But when I hear that, I'm not really hearing the Tesla's trying to kill you. I'm hearing the Tesla is not operating to perfection as you expect. So, like today I was driving down the road. I went to breakfast this morning with my wife and my kid. And on the way back, a car went by me and some leaves blew over into our lane. And the car like swerved a little bit to miss the leaves. Now, when I say swerve a little bit, I mean it was still in the lane. It
Yeah.
just it's not like it was gonna throw me into the ravine. I didn't take over. It just went a little bit. It braked a little bit, went a little bit to the right, and then back into the lane.
Yeah.
And it's like, the FSD system, its whole reward system is don't collide, don't crash. Don't crash into another object. That's its main
Right.
reward system. So, if it swerves a little bit, like whatever. I mean, that to me, that's not dangerous. That's just the car making a small misjudgment. It's not. I don't classify that as the car's trying to kill me. I classify that as the car's a little sensitive.
I have
And
a
this is also specific to version 14. And
yeah.
I'm on the advanced software track, meaning if I wanted the full stable stuff, then I wouldn't even have it yet. I want the early stuff. So in a way, I'm kind of a beta tester, and you can't really expect like perfect software as a beta tester.
No, no. I have a road just outside my neighborhood where every single time I leave the neighborhood, it's a coin flip as to whether or not the car will make a left into the lane or into the shoulder. And it's
Okay.
just an issue of how the road is painted there, right? I don't know how it decides different things on different occasions. I don't know what's forcing it to do that. It's interesting to me. Every time it does it, I'm like, oh, what's she gonna do? Right? Like I'm almost excited to find out. What I do not do when it does that is go, oh my goodness, my car tried to kill me by
Right,
turning
of
into
course.
its shoulder. But
You got to consider also that if there was also a car there, then your Tesla would be able to figure out the lane better. So
absolutely,
it's
yeah,
it's probably a combination of the markings are poor and there's no other objects that's helping it out.
yep,
But even in that case, the other thing is if it runs a red light. Okay, it's like people might look at that and be like, "It's trying to kill me," but really, if there was it just misread the light. It's not like if there was a car coming that it would result in an accident because the Tesla will stop for a car coming across. It doesn't
I,
matter whether it's a green or red light. So, should it run a red light? No, of course not. But did, would that have resulted in you dying? No.
Yeah,
It might
I've had
result in you
mine
getting a
run.
ticket, but
I've had mine run a red twice, and I thanked it on both occasions. And it's like
yeah.
I've been sitting there forever, and it's like like what what provoked it? I think on one occasion it was the guy in front of me ran the red light, and it was like, oh, I must have misinterpreted, and it just followed him.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
At the end of the day, it's AI, so it's making decisions rapidly. It makes a decision every 33 milliseconds, and so it's basing it on that. But at the end of the day, it's 14 times safer than a human
yep,
today.
yep.
And in a year from now, it'll be 50 times safer. In 3 years from now, it'll be 100 times safer, and then eventually, it's going to drive itself without a steering wheel, and that's still going to be safer than a human driver.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's I've
So.
said it before. Like I'm a huge motorcycle enthusiast, and if the price for every single human being on the roads being in a full self driving car is me not getting to use the motorcycle anymore, deal.
Yeah, yeah,
So
same. Yep, same. But okay, well, I think we're kind of at the end. If you have any final thoughts on anything,
fuck Reddit, but no other
yeah,
other than
yeah, fuck
that,
Reddit, man. I agree. That
other than
is
that, I think we're good.
it's it truly is the worst place on the internet
Fucking
by far.
cesspool, man.
So okay, well, good show. I think that's going to be it for now. We'll wrap up and see everybody next week.
Right on, buddy. It was a fun one. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the Takedown with Brian and Jesse, and I hope to see you next week on the next episode. Take care for now.